dying to know.
Pity the fool that doesn't play Dennis Pitta.
And on that note, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll launch through the second half slate of games. Load up the phone lines, folks, 585-633-7487, 585-633-7487. You're listening to Week 3 Starts and Sits in 60 Minutes on Late Night Sports Radio.
Everything is at latenightsportsradio.com.
Week 3 starts and sits in 60 minutes. Brought to you by thefantasygreek.com. For all of your fantasy football questions, advice, and insight needs, go to thefantasygreek.com. I'm joined by, the Fantasy Greek himself, Jim Saranteas, for the second half of the program, who has gone on a pun rampage in the first half of the program. Load up the phone lines, folks. 585-633-7487. 585-633-7487 for any questions, thoughts on your personal fantasy lineups. We are halfway through the NFL schedule for Week 3, and we begin the second half of the program with the Green Bay Packers traveling to the Detroit Lions. So, what can you say? The Packers, what a fantastic comeback last week against the Jets. Down 17 points at one point. They come back all the way and win. The Detroit Lions, what a letdown in Carolina. And I still haven't made up my mind whether I want to tip my cap to Carolina or be mad at another bipolar Detroit team. But that being said, I think that's my favorite phrase lately. I catch myself saying it a lot. That being said, Detroit's at home. I like their offense versus a mediocre at best Green Bay defense. Dom Capers, for all of the kudos that he got for during the year that they made the Super Bowl run, they have not adapted personnel at all. They are not good. I know they lost B.J. Raji to injury, and you can't control that. But that being said, they are not a good defensive team, and the Lions are at home. I'm picking Detroit in this game.
And Keith, this is one that both of us agreed on, and even though I think Steve took the Packers, we both agree on the Lions. I think it's a tough call. It's another one of these games that's tough to call because you could see why the Packers might win this game. And even your comments about their defense, which I wholeheartedly agree with. Jim Wiedner of thefantasygreek.com, contributing writer, who writes about the Packers on the Packers homepage, wrote a great article that was posted today about the confidence they got out of this last win over the Jets and how that defense suddenly came together. And he was having a hard describing, not a hard time, but there's a moment in the game where it sort of happened and suddenly they could do no wrong. If that's the defense that shows up, this game could definitely be much different than what you and I think. But we don't need to worry about that because we're here to talk fantasy football. And the thing that I can tell you, and I think you might agree with me, this should be a shootout. Yeah. This should be one of the highest scoring games, if not the highest scoring game this weekend. And I think you've got to start pretty much everybody. I mean, maybe we should do it from who you should not play. That might be easier.
No, it should be a high scoring affair.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Rodgers, Eddie Lacy, Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb. I suppose you could look at Devontae Adams if you wanted to, but that would be kind of a stretch for me. They still haven't quite worked. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, sorry. You're getting greedy if you do that, but go ahead.
Yeah, I think you're getting greedy, and certainly they haven't worked out their tight end situation, so you can't depend on that. You got Matthew Stafford, Reggie Bush, Joique Bell, Calvin Johnson. And I don't think you're greedy to play Golden Tate this week. I think he looks like a solid wide receiver 3. And I wish Eric Ebron would just step up. He's killing me. I have him on one of my teams, and I've just been fighting, trying to hold on to him, but it's one of those things. Anyway, like you, I'm going to take the Lions.
The Indianapolis Colts travel to the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Colts with a big letdown on Monday night, losing that game to the Philadelphia Eagles. Prime time, showcase, home game, and they just couldn't hold it against a pretty potent Eagles team. Now they traveled to Jacksonville, and the Indianapolis Colts are not good on defense. They're averaging 410 yards surrendering per game in their first 2 games. But the Jaguars are that much worse at 435 yards. And that's a little shocking to me because I really thought that team would be better defensively. And then on the other side, they just do not have it offensively. They don't have enough weapons. You have to pick the Indianapolis Colts even though they're on the road here.
Yeah, you have to pick them. And you know what's weird is one of the things that I recognize about the Jaguars in general as a franchise, it seems like every year they pull out just an unthinkable win at home against a team nobody expected them to beat. And I don't think it's going to be this particular game. But, it's one of those things that always creeps in the back of my mind that, hey, it's football, anything can happen. But you got to go with the Colts here. They're basically going against a Jaguars team that, on paper, they're one of the worst defenses around. They give up, I think, the best they do fantasy point-wise is to one of the positions, maybe it's tight end, or wide receiver. They give up, they're ranked 13th in terms of the most fantasy points. Otherwise, they are easily in the top 10, if not in the top 5. So you're looking at Andrew Luck, top 5 quarterback. Trent Richardson could be a flex if you really wanted to. Ahmad Bradshaw, RB2. But the Trent Richardson thing, like you said, that might be greedy. Ahmad Bradshaw, I love him as an RB2 this week at 96 all-purpose yards, 2 TDs last week. How about a repeat? That would be pretty awesome. Reggie Wayne, T.Y. Hilton, and the Colts defense. Hey, this is a Jaguars team giving up, I think it's the most or second most fantasy points, so you go start them. And sooner or later, my friend, we're going to see Blake Bortles. So everybody sit tight for that waiver wire pickup. That should be interesting. Now, let's not poo-hoo the Jaguars to no end. They do have one player that I really do like playing this week in fantasy, and that's Toby Gerhart. I mean, we saw what the Colts defense did with the Eagles out there. I know we want to credit Darren Sproles with all of that, but we can't. You can look at him and McCoy, and combined they put up over 100 all-purpose. 100 yards rushing, and both of their scoring touchdowns were on rushes. So I like Toby Gerhart this week, and I think you have to play him if you have him as an RB2, middle of the road. I'm taking the Colts.
The Oakland Raiders travel to the New England Patriots. Patriots with a resounding win over the Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota. And a game where Minnesota got out to a quick lead, but then the Patriots very quickly took control of that. The Raiders are 0-2. Questions are abounding about head coach Dennis Allen. Once again, they are mired in suckedness. And I just made that word up because it fits. Whether or not Derek Carr is the real deal, who knows? He's not playing all that bad. He just doesn't have a lot around him. You're going to New England. I don't need to break this game down anymore. New England wins this game.
Yeah, New England should walk away with this game. Again, it's another situation much like the Saints. It's their home opener. And people there are going to be jacked up. The team's going to be jacked up. And there's just nothing the Raiders are going to be able to do about this. This is a really good Patriots defense, which is why you sort of look at Raiders players and you have a hard time finding anybody to really play. I mean, I have James Jones as a sit, even though he may have been one of the more popular wide receiver waiver wire pickups this week because he's going to be covered by their best cornerback. And that's it. He's not going to catch any footballs. The one Raider I do like is Darren McFadden, and that's only because the Patriots have given up the ninth most fantasy points to running backs, and I think you could look at McFadden as a flex play, and that's as far as I would take it. Otherwise, this is you start Tom Brady, Stephen Ridley, Julian Edelman, Rob Gronkowski. Did I miss anybody? The Patriots defense. You start them all with confidence. This should be a game that is well under control and that they handily win. Let's get on to week 4 for the Patriots.
All right. San Francisco travels to the Arizona Cardinals. The 49ers coming off a deflating defeat at home by the Chicago Bears, which really was a tale of two halves in the opening game in Levi Stadium history. The Arizona Cardinals 2-0, and they won last week with Drew Stanton at quarterback. So you have to ask yourself, is this Arizona Cardinals team for real? And I think by the end of the season, we may be answering yes to that. I think we picked them pretty favorably in our NFL preview show, if I remember correctly. But that being said, San Francisco is still San Francisco, and they're going to be angry, and I really think they can win this game on the road.
I'm taking the Niners as well. This is a statement game for San Francisco, as I think you've readily pointed out. After last week, the 49ers need to come out and they need to get a confidence win. They need to build that confidence back to what it was before, and they need to just